Good morning, all. Wanted to film a quick video today about horses and how they eat. Shakespeare's finishing up the last of his breakfast right now. I would have gotten in here sooner, but I was trying to get the other two settled and move all the herd around. And anyway, he ate so fast that I didn't have a whole lot of time. But these are some of the remnants of his grain. And you can see it's kind of like pretty puffy, and see, like there's one piece of it, and see how it's soft, like I can just smash it. The reason it's soft like that is because I soak his grain in water. I actually, here's a pro tip. Not that I call myself a pro, but here's a hack, if you will. When you are soaking your horse's grain, soak it in hot water, especially in the winter time. Add nice hot water to it, and that grain will break down. If you have pellets, the pellets will break down so much faster. Like if you're feeding Timothy or orchard grass pellets or something like that. This is a senior feed that I feed him because he has bad teeth. So it is critically important that you soak your feed if you have any type of a pellet type of feed. Not so much sweet feed. Sweet feed is a different kind of feed. It's like a molasses based feed, although if you wanted to add a little warm water to that too, it certainly would not hurt. But my guys are on pelleted feed, particularly him. I feed a feed called Kent. It's made by Kent, and it's called Sentinel SR for senior. It is specifically formulated for horses with bad teeth. Shakespeare has bad teeth because for the first 10 years of his life, they never ever took care of his teeth. They never had his teeth floated. He had broken teeth, cracked teeth. His teeth were just a mess. You know, he had teeth that were chipped and falling out. So when I got him, I of course had his teeth floated. Hold on a second. Cutter is doing something really weird. Cutter, what are you doing? It's not that he's licking the metal that's weird. He was... What is he doing? He was making a very strange noise just now, but I don't know. Maybe he was just playing around. Anyway, back to Shakespeare and his teeth. Yeah, so they never gave him proper dental care, so I have his teeth floated once a year, or at least checked for float. Now what that means is the vet comes in and sedates him and puts this big thing called a speculum in his mouth. Ladies, we all know what that is. And it kind of cranks their mouths open, and then it holds them in that opened position. But the horse is sedated, but they're still standing up. They're just kind of standing there half asleep under a mild sedative. And you crank their mouth open, and then you take this file. Actually, my vet has a power drill with a little disc on the end of it, and then they go into their teeth and they sand those teeth down and file them down, because what happens is horse teeth get hooks on them. Horses' teeth grow their entire lives, and they can get really pointed. They can also break, they can get overgrown, and then the horse can't properly chew grass and digest properly. We had a mare in here one time that hadn't been properly, her teeth hadn't been taken care of, and she had a misplaced tooth kind of almost directly in the center of her mouth, and that tooth, I swear to you, was that long. I mean, it was 5 inches long, and that poor horse couldn't even shut her mouth. It was terrible. So the vet came in, and we had to work away at it slowly. He had to cut a little bit off, and then wait a few weeks and cut a little more, and wait a few weeks and cut a little bit more. But that mare was so emaciated when she got here. I mean, it was horrible to look at. But God, she must have gained 200 pounds after that tooth was fixed. So it's just critically important. Yeah, there's your bucket. It's critically important that you soak your grain if you are, you soak your pellets if you are feeding that type of food to your horses. I don't care if they're young, old, whatever they are, you've got to soak that pelleted feed, because what happens is the pellet is designed to absorb, it's designed to expand as it goes down through the horse's intestines and their entire system. And so if you do not soak them ahead of time, what happens is when they hit the horse's saliva and bodily fluids, they start to expand right away. And I mean, it is quick. If you've ever taken a piece of pelleted feed, and do an experiment with yourself at home, just take a couple of pieces of that pelleted feed, put it in your hand, run some water over it, and watch how fast that thing blows up. I mean, it is like, it is very, very fast. Sound effects are free. So it expands really, really quickly. And then what happens is these horses come in here and they eat really, really, really fast. So if they're eating that dry pelleted feed that has not already been soaked and has not already expanded, then you can imagine as they're, sucking it down really quick, very quickly they can eat. If they're doing that, their saliva hits it, it starts to expand. And as it's coming up through their bodies and going down their esophagus, it's getting like this, bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And the more it's happening, the horse is eating more and more. And then what inevitably happens is they choke. And a horse cannot vomit. They have no way of expelling something like that other than coughing. So because they can't vomit, they really can choke, and choking is quite dangerous. We had a horse choke up in the barn, a stallion, a few years back. Now luckily he didn't die from it, but that was actually from an apple. Somebody gave him a whole apple, and he took and he swallowed that apple, and you could actually see the ball of the apple lodged in his right about here on the horse, and he could not, it was terrible. So we couldn't get it pushed out. It was part of an apple, it wasn't a whole apple, so he was able to get a tiny bit of air. But it was a horrible situation. The vet came, they had to put a tube down him, they had to try and flush him. The vet tubed him and tubed him and tubed him, and we finally got it dislodged with a lot of like lubricant and whatever else he had in that tube. I don't even know what it was, but that horse did survive. But there are so many things to think about when you have a horse, and there's so many things that they can actually get into trouble with. And choking is certainly one of them. So just, be aware of that. When in doubt, my motto is, if you have a horse feed that you're feeding and you don't know whether you're supposed to soak it or not, soak it, okay? You cannot hurt by soaking it, but you can do a whole lot of damage if you don't soak it. So, and like I said, pro tip, if you've got Timothy pellets or any kind of grass pellet, or really any kind of pellet at all, and it's the winter time and you need that thing to absorb fast, take hot water, pour it on there. My horses love it when I do it in hot water, because it only takes like literally 5 minutes in hot water, whereas if you soak it in cold water, you might have to soak it for 30-40 minutes. So hot water works instantaneously, and I have found that they really in the wintertime appreciate that warm meal. Now the first time I gave them a hot water soaked bucket of grain, I will admit they all kind of like stuck their heads in the bucket, and then they pulled their heads out of the bucket, and then they looked at me like I was crazy. They were like, "What are you feeding us?" But once I dumped it out and it air cooled just a minute, they realized what it was, and they were totally fine with it. So and now they really look forward to having that hot meal, especially in the wintertime when their bodies are kind of chilly, and that hot water goes through them. And what I do is I fill my grain up, and then when it's in the bucket, I just go exact level of the grain, maybe like an inch over it, and then it'll suck that water down into it, and it's a great way of providing them with extra hydration as well. So okay, well, I hope that helps. Look, the whole herd is standing here waiting. But Wyatt's right here, True's over there. They all just finished eating their breakfast. So I'm going to go ahead and stop this for now. But happy Saturday, folks. Shakespeare just got his nice warm breakfast, and he's a happy camper. All right. Have a good day.